Well, hello everyone and welcome. And I've got one of my favorite people on the planet, Chris Orwig, joining us today. Hi, Chris.
Hey Lori, great to be here.
Great to be here too with you. I had you come to Google. It was a couple of years ago, and you did an interview, and actually wonderful presentation at Google for the photographers at Google Talks. And that you were so inspirational. I just, you're one of those people you just like being around because you just have this aura of goodness about you. So, and every time I talk to you, it just, I don't know, you're so inspirational. And I think that's what you're all about. You're about sharing about, how to make your life better, being creative. And you've got this new book coming out that we want to talk about, The Creative Fight, which is also going to be given away during your contest with ViewBug here, which is going to be called Grit and Glory. So, Chris, we're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about your book. We're going to talk about what you're looking for in a winning image. And everybody's going to get a big treat because we're going to look at some of your beautiful images as well. So thank you again for joining us. I'm really excited to have everyone meet you who haven't. I'm sure a lot of you have, but welcome, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. And the feeling is mutual. So, I love any chance I get to do something with you. And again, I think that's what will make this conversation so fun is that I think we're really synced up with how we approach life and creativity and photography and all that stuff. So excited about having a chance to share and all of that.
So Chris, we're going to take a look at some of your gorgeous images. So let's go ahead and take a look here.
Okay. Yeah, great. So I like to photograph life, and I was recently asked this question, Chris, how much of your work is personal work? And it kind of is all personal. I mean, I do things for clients, but I like to try to make it, meaningful and significant to me. And so here's obviously some of kind of the different types of things I photograph. I really like photographing people. And, for today, our topic is this idea of the creative fight. And this is a self-portrait back when I had a beard, but my daughters didn't like the beard, so eventually I shaved it off. But and obviously I didn't push the shutter release button. I had a friend help me out with the picture. But the idea that you really have to go for it, you have to be in the elements if you want to create your best work and live a better life. So that's what our topic really is for today. And one of the other concept, this was that same day, a different version of maybe the same idea, but is what I've come to find in my own life, and Lori, I'm sure you can relate to this, is that creativity, while it's wonderful and amazing, it doesn't always come easy. And in other words, you have to set aside time for it. You have to have these big ideas and dreams, and you have to chase them. You can't, imagination isn't enough. And so I love that Jack London quote of this idea that you really have to go after it with a club. And then just to turn it back to you, have you found that to be true in your own life as far as how creativity, works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes actually a lot of time, I've noticed, and a lot of patience, and just being consistent and going out. Sometimes on the weekends you don't feel like taking your camera out and doing something. You be more comfortable staying at home, so you kind of push yourself. And I find that a lot. And I think the more you push yourself, the more creative you get, and you inspire others too. And it's a wonderful journey, and I love it. It's great.
Yeah, and I love that part that you said about inspiring others, because the other thing I've found to be true is that creativity is really contagious in your own life, but in others. When you're more creative, it helps other people more creative, which helps you be more creative. And so all of that, is really good, but it takes that initiative. Chuck Close, he has this great quote where he says, "Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just get to work." And that obviously we need inspiration, but we also need to put in this effort. And like you said, just get out there, because it is hard to bring your camera with you all the time, and it is hard to really create something that's meaningful to you. And so obviously I've created kind of these slides to illustrate a few of these, or share a few thoughts, but what I've found is that, and this is another image from that same shoot, I brought a ladder out in the ocean, but this one was, this idea that you have to have this big belief, like something is possible, the impossible, I can achieve that, but you also need these guts, this grit, and put in the hard work to get there. And sometimes that means you climb up a ladder and you enjoy the view, and other times it means you have to jump off and abandon ship, so to speak. And I think that happens a lot in creativity. You have to have that willingness to really put it all out there, and then if it isn't good, to move on. And that's really tough too, because there's times where I've created images that I just love, but then they're just not working, and it's like, oh, I gotta go reshoot it and try again. So that's a big part of it for me as well. And as a side note, it was very cold and very uncomfortable wearing a wool sweater and jeans, jumping off a ladder. But it was a lot of fun. I told my friend John, I was like, hey, I have this idea. Can we go do this? And he thought I was crazy, but it ended up being kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So a couple other thoughts. One is another friend on the left, or these are both friends, and that's where a lot of my work is, just personal, bringing in friends and people. But one is that with these ideas on becoming more creative, there's this gap, kind of the guy with looking for the next palm tree, and we also have this extra baggage that prevents us from being creative. And I think part of the gap is that we forget that creativity is hard, and what happens, at least for me, is, say when you have some idea, write a book or make a great image or whatever, you have the idea, but then it becomes difficult and you have to sort of fight through that. You have to get through the gap time. And the baggage we carry around is we forget that that's going to happen time and time again. And that sometimes we climb these ladders, I think, unaware. And what I mean by that, I don't know if this will play, this is a little video file, but this is another friend who I convinced to get up on the ladder. But we climb these ladders thinking that it'll be different this time, or thinking that it won't be hard, but it's always hard. That's what makes it good. When we really have to invest ourselves, that helps us to step up our own creativity. And for me, what that means is, these are a couple images. One, a friend with a canoe. He had just fallen over in this canoe in the ocean. Another one, a friend holding this boat, and this wave was crashing. And as the wave was crashing, I was like, just stay there, stay there. And he stayed there through the whole thing, and the wave crashed over him. It was awesome. But it's this idea that the difficulty is where the music happens. And I love how Wendell Berry put it. He said the impeded stream is the one that sings. So it isn't always just the good stuff, rainbows and sunsets, but sometimes it's when we hit the difficulties, that's where the beauty kind of happens. Viktor Frankl put it this way: what is to give light must endure burning. And that I found that challenge, discontent, and disappointment can be really excellent opportunities for creative growth. And this can mean a lot of different things, but this was another day out on the ocean where I was trying to get this friend to hold the umbrella on top of the ladder. The umbrella fell to the water, so I was frustrated at first, but then I realized, no, that's actually the shot. Right. And that when we lean into things going wrong, many times that's when the magic happens. Obviously you plan, you work hard, all this stuff, but then you have to say, you know what, yeah, I can lean into this, or can try to push through it, and that's when the creativity really revs up, right? It revs up when we hit those difficulties, and it's all about making the most with what you have. And I have other slides, Lori, but I figure I'll kind of pause there to see if you have any thoughts or questions, because I don't want to just rifle through all these.
Oh, these are great.
But what are your thoughts?
Well, this really resonates with me. When you go out with something in your mind, like I photograph wildlife a lot, and I'll go out and have something visually in my mind. But what happens is even better than what I imagined. So I've learned to go out, be open to what happens, and it's just, oh gosh, it's amazing what happens in front of my lens. And so I've learned that. And so I love what you just talked about here, because I've experienced it almost every time I've gone out to shoot, and in life too.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the first, probably, I mean, not to put words in your mouth, but I imagine like earlier when you would shoot, you would carry that baggage with you and say, why isn't it happening? But then as you get more experience, you realize, I'm not going to bring that expectation. I have the hope and the dream, but then I'm going to wait for it. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to, and that's, like you said, when the magic happens and you can't believe what's happening in front of your camera.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why we love photography so much, right? It's those unexpected moments that just, they're wonderful. Yeah, it's magic.
They are. And then let me throw out another topic, distractions. I love this T.S. Eliot quote, because I think a lot of times the reason creativity doesn't happen or we miss the images is because we're, as he said, distracted from distractions by distractions, a lot of distraction. But so maybe just have open up a question. What for you what are the things that distract you from creating your best work? And then I can share mine too. But
okay. Well, actually, life. I mean, just, there's deadlines, there's things that you have to do. And what I found, Chris, is that when I get behind the camera and I'm looking through the lens, everything disappears except for what I'm focused on. And it's therapy for me. So when I get out there, everything, all the distractions go away. And that's where you kind of have to learn to just let it go, be in the moment. And that's when your most beautiful images appear before you. So that's why I love to go out and photograph as much as I can so that I can kind of calm down and get rid of the busy stuff in life.
So that's interesting, because when I see your work, it is so calm, and so that's what I like about it so much. It's so peaceful. That's interesting to hear you say that it's like it's how you're experiencing the moment, and so I think that you kind of pass on that moment to us through your images.
That's right. And what about you, Chris?
Well, like you said, life, laundry, and and cars breaking down, and all that is the difficult. Those are the distractions. For me too, I think trying to carve out time when I'm not on a computer is really important. So I'm not, or an illuminated screen even. I'm not. It's kind of the typical things, but the phone, the computer, typical life, and mostly it's almost scheduling in undistracted time, where it says okay, for this hour I'm going to go do this thing, and I found that it's really important, and that for me that's kind of get back to the creative fight. That's something I have to fight for, and it's worth fighting for. And for anyone listening, I would say for you too. I mean, you got to fight for that time where you're really free from the things which are pulling you away or pulling you in different directions, because your best work won't happen unless you do that. At least that's what I've found in my own life.
And make it a habit. I find that too.
Yes,
make it a habit, right? So that's great advice. Love that.
And these have some quotes with it that Proust said, the real voyage of discovery lies not in seeking new landscape, but in having new eyes. And part of the fight, I don't think it's so much of a fight of, I don't know, there is some muscle into it, but there's also letting go, seeing the world in a new way. And it's following Emerson's advice to be quiet so that we can hear things. He says, let us be silent that we may hear the whispers of the gods. Being quiet so we can hear things that we might have otherwise overlooked. And one way to do that is to try to tap back into who you are creatively, is maybe to think back when you were a kid. This is my daughter Annie, and to say, well, what did I really love, or what do I really love? Or maybe it's to ask yourself what the dream is, if you've always wanted to paint, perhaps doing that, or the image on the right for me is just like enjoying life. It's like climbing the right ladder, because too often I think we're climbing the wrong ladders, chasing the wrong things, and enjoying life. And maybe I'll end it here with this slide, but it's to become really who we are. And another Emerson quote, but to be ourselves in a world that's constantly trying to make us something else. And when I photograph people, I'm always thinking about trying to capture who that person is, because that is really, really important. And the more we can tap into who we are and why we're here, the better off we'll be. So this really will be my last slide, Lori. This was from last week. But is this Mark Twain quote here with this image of Alex, but is the two most important days of your life, the day you're born and the day you find out why. And I think that quote's a little limiting because it implies that there's like one day. I think there's many days and many moments when we find out, yes, this is why I'm here. I'm doing the right thing. This is the direction I need to go. And so for me, anyway, the book, that's really all about that. How can we find more of those moments where we're really aligned and we're doing the thing we're intended to do, which then makes our work stronger, our life better, it inspires others, it inspires us, and just kind of ignites the whole thing and goes in a really good direction.
I love that. And your book is, it's for photographers, it's for artists, it's for anyone. It's about life and, being inspired,
yes,
which is fantastic. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, and I only reference photography a couple times in there. Obviously, all the pictures and writing's mine, but yeah, it is. It's more for all of us. I believe creativity is so much bigger, and it's then being limited or tethered to certain careers. I think we all have this creativity inside of us, and the book's attempt is to try to figure out how can we get that out, regardless of what we do. So
fantastic. Well, Chris, let's talk about your contest. You're doing a contest for ViewBug called Grit and Glory. And that's actually a chapter in your book. We took that that chapter heading.
Yeah.
So tell us what grit and glory means to you and what you're looking for in a winning image.
So grit and glory, this idea of grit is sort of this thing that you gain over the long haul. And I think you can work hard on a short little sprint, but grit is I don't know, it's something that is built up over years of time. I love that one quote which says, "Years teach us much, which the days will never know." And I think grit, people who are gritty, they've worked hard and continue to work hard and continue to work hard. And those people really, really inspire me. And I think the glory side of it is that there is a payoff when you put in the time. And maybe a couple of ways to illustrate that. I think typically, maybe when we think of grit, perhaps we can think of gritty images or gritty alley or maybe a boxer or something like that. I think it's bigger than that in regards to the images I'm looking for. I think it can be the parent that fights for their kid. One story I mentioned in the book is my friend's son who was born without a hand, and he couldn't ride bikes with his buddies at preschool until his dad figured out he could tape a cup to the handlebar and the kid could put his arm, kind of his wrist in there and bike around with his buddies. But I think there's a grit to that, to saying I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting for my son, So anyway, that doesn't actually lead. Hopefully, rather than lead you to a direct image, it opens you up a little bit more. But part of it is having an image which has presence. It isn't like fleeting beauty, but it's more of this long-term effort involved in living life and fighting the good fight.
Love that.
I don't know if that makes sense at all, Lori.
Yes, it sure does. And I love how you push us all to be better and challenge us to, step off that ladder, which I love that analogy.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, I wanted to share with you too, us being educators, there was a quote that you gave at Google Talk. It's education isn't about filling a pail, but igniting a fire, which has always stuck with me.
Yes.
And these quotes I just love that you bring out, but that one in particular was real special, and I appreciate that. So.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And I think that what tends to happen, I mean, that's obviously from a teaching perspective, it's sort of my goal as a teacher, right?
Right.
And I think you too. But then also I'm always trying to think about that when I'm a student, when I'm sitting in the lecture hall or watching a course online, I'm trying to say like, okay, how's this going to ignite something? What am I going to do? How am I going to, make something happen? Because the trick, as we all know with education, is you can just sit back and kind of passively learn and watch and not do anything. The trick is to transition to, okay, no, I'm ignited. Like, I listened to these two people talk, and now I'm going to go out and try to capture this gritty image, and it has this strength to it. And so, yeah, that is one of my all-time favorite quotes. I obviously love quotes, but I think they help to encapsulate these larger ideas for me, and they help me to remind myself, like, oh yeah, that's why I'm here. That's what this is about. Even this conversation, it's all about that, that inspiration to go and do and be and all those things.
And your book, besides being wonderful text that the reader can read, they're also, you make them become interactive because there's exercises that you put within your book, which I think is great, so that they take charge.
Yeah. Being a teacher, I had to include that, right?
Exactly.
Because I think there are some students I've had who you can suggest something, that, I don't know, you should take photographs of your friends, and they'll go and do it, but then the rest of us, myself included, we need someone to say, go make 3 photographs of 3 of your closest friends, and it's like, okay, got it, I'll go do that thing. So there are some exercises in every chapter,
That's great. Well, Chris, thank you very much. This has been just always a joy for me to spend time with you, and I know all the viewers are going to appreciate this as well. And thank you for igniting the fire under all of us. You're just really special. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So glad to get a chance to chat, Lori, and thanks for including me in the mix. Really appreciate that. And good luck to everyone capturing images out there. Can't wait to see them.
Great. Thanks, everyone.